Have you ever wondered how much power your words really hold? Not just the ones you say out loud, but the quiet ones you whisper to yourself in doubt, fear, or frustration. Every sentence you speak reflects the way you see the world, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. And while most people speak without thinking, an intelligent woman chooses her words like she's crafting her future. Because she is. She knows that words aren't just sounds. They are instructions to your mind. They become blueprints for your life. And if you repeat weak, self-limiting language long enough, it starts to build walls around your potential. But the moment you decide to become intentional with your words, especially the ones you never say, you begin to unlock a version of yourself that is strong, focused, and unapologetically powerful. Maybe you've caught yourself saying things like, "I'm probably wrong, but," or "it's just not meant for me." It seems harmless, right? But those small phrases carry weight. They plant seeds of hesitation and self-doubt. They train your mind to play small, to settle, to expect less. An intelligent woman understands this. She knows her voice is her command center, and she refuses to use it against herself. There's nothing superficial about this. This isn't about sounding smart or polished. It's about choosing language that matches the strength of your vision. Because when you speak like someone who values herself, the world listens differently. You attract respect. You attract clarity. You start attracting opportunities that match your worth. But more than anything, you start believing in your own power. And that changes everything. This is not about perfection. It's about awareness. The most intelligent woman isn't the one with the highest degree or the biggest vocabulary. She's the one who knows the damage of careless language. She's the one who pauses before speaking, not because she doubts herself, but because she respects her words too much to waste them. She's the one who's learned that speaking from insecurity will only invite more of it, and she's not interested in that life. Right now, you have the chance to start hearing yourself more clearly, to notice the words you casually toss out, especially the ones that quietly sabotage your confidence. And the more aware you become, the more powerful you grow. Imagine speaking with calm strength, setting boundaries without guilt, affirming your worth without needing permission. That's what happens when your voice becomes your ally. Stay with this message, because by the end, you won't just discover 6 things an intelligent woman never says. You'll understand why she never says them, and you'll learn how letting go of those phrases can unlock a version of you that's bolder, freer, and completely in charge of her life. You deserve that. And it starts with this choice: to listen, to learn, and to rise. If your voice is your power, then your inner voice is your foundation. Every day, whether you notice it or not, you're having a conversation with yourself. And the words you use in that silent dialogue are shaping your choices, your habits, your confidence, and your future. An intelligent woman knows this. She knows that what she repeats in her mind becomes what she accepts in her life. And so she guards her inner language like treasure, because that's exactly what it is. Self-talk is not just background noise. It is a blueprint. Say something enough times and it becomes belief. Believe it long enough and it becomes your identity. That's why emotionally intelligent women refuse to say things like "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess this up," even in passing. Not because they're immune to fear or doubt, but because they know the cost of rehearsing weakness. They've learned that feeding fear only gives it more control, and they have no intention of handing over that power. It's easy to underestimate the impact of a few simple words, but the truth is, your nervous system listens to every message you give it. Every time you say "I can't," you trigger the same chemical responses as if the door to your dream really were locked. Your brain stops looking for solutions, your body tightens, your energy dips, and slowly your world shrinks. But when you say "I'm capable," even before you fully believe it, your brain begins to shift. Possibility opens, your shoulders lift, your focus sharpens, and you start behaving like someone who has a chance. That small shift in language is often the only thing standing between who you are and who you could be. No woman is born with unshakable belief. That confidence is built, word by word, day by day. And every time you choose a stronger thought, every time you catch yourself before you speak weakness into your world, you build a deeper sense of power within. That's what separates intelligent women from the rest. They're not louder. They're not luckier. They're simply more intentional. They've decided not to let careless words define their limits. This isn't about faking positivity or ignoring hard truths. It's about speaking in a way that fuels your strength, not your fear. It's about choosing words that reflect who you're becoming, not just who you've been. And it's about understanding that transformation doesn't begin when circumstances change. It begins the moment you change how you speak to yourself. Right now, you have that moment. A choice. You can keep repeating what keeps you small, or you can begin to speak like a woman who knows her worth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because growth always feels uncomfortable. But it also feels right. Stay with this, because what you'll discover next could silence the doubts you've carried for far too long, and awaken a voice that refuses to play small ever again. I can't. These two words have stopped more dreams than failure ever could. They sound small, almost innocent, but their damage is enormous. When a woman says I can't, she isn't just commenting on the task in front of her. She's declaring something about herself, about her identity, her ability, her future. An intelligent woman knows this. She feels the weight of those words. And that's exactly why she refuses to say them. Saying I can't without trying is an act of surrender. It's giving up before the fight begins. It's closing the door before checking if it's even locked. And most of the time, it isn't. Most of the time, what we think we can't do is something we've never really attempted. Something we've assumed was impossible because of fear, insecurity, or someone else's limitations placed on us. But an intelligent woman doesn't let fear become her script. She rewrites it. She replaces I can't with I'm learning, or I'll figure it out, because those words keep her moving. They keep her open. And in a world that's always trying to box her in, she knows her freedom depends on her willingness to stay open. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from the stretch, from the reach, from the leap. And when you say, I can't, you shrink. You disconnect from your potential. But when you challenge yourself, even silently, you grow. You expand into someone you weren't yesterday. Every strong woman you've ever admired started where you are, uncertain, unproven, and scared. The difference is, they kept going. They replaced doubt with discipline and fear with forward motion. They refused to make I can't part of their vocabulary, because they understood it was never about ability, it was about belief. There's something powerful that happens when you say, I can, not because the road gets easier, but because you get stronger. Your voice changes, your energy shifts. You start taking small actions that lead to bigger victories, and suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes just another step. Not because you had all the answers, but because you dared to stay in the game. An intelligent woman doesn't need to be the best. She just needs to believe she belongs. That belief becomes her fuel. That belief becomes her edge. She may fall, she may struggle, but she never lets I can't become the reason she walks away. She chooses different words, words that lift, words that lead, words that align with the woman she's becoming, not the one she's been. If you've been telling yourself you can't, it's time to challenge that lie, not with perfection, but with persistence. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop giving your fear the final say, because deep down, you know there's more in you. And when you stop saying I can't, you finally give yourself permission to find it. Keep going. Your next breakthrough starts with the words you choose right now. There is a certain kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It shows up in the way a woman holds her space, how she speaks without shrinking, and how she refuses to apologize for simply existing. An intelligent woman understands the weight of unnecessary apologies. She knows that saying I'm sorry for being herself, for having boundaries, for taking up space, is not humility, it's conditioning, and she has made the choice to break free from that. Too often, women are taught to cushion their presence, to make themselves smaller in conversations, in decisions, in rooms where their power might feel uncomfortable to others, and so they say things like, I'm sorry, but can I add something? Or sorry, I just wanted to ask, as if their thoughts are interruptions, not contributions, as if their voice needs permission. But an intelligent woman has learned that every time she does this, she trains herself to believe she is a burden, and she's done carrying that weight. Apologies have a place. They are meaningful when there is harm. They are powerful when they come from integrity. But when I'm sorry becomes a reflex, a habit, a way to soften her truth, she loses pieces of herself one phrase at a time. She begins to question her worth before anyone else even does. That is not kindness. That is self-erasure. And she has decided that her truth deserves better. There is no strength in guilt that was never yours to carry. You do not owe the world an apology for being intelligent, ambitious, clear, or confident. You do not owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace, for saying no, for knowing your limits, or for choosing yourself. An intelligent woman knows this. She replaces I'm sorry with thank you for your patience, or here's my perspective, because her voice does not need to come with a disclaimer. It needs to come with conviction. She understands that the way she speaks teaches others how to treat her. If she speaks like she's in the way, others will treat her like she is. If she speaks like she's worthy of being heard, they'll listen, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. And there is nothing louder than a woman who quietly believes in herself. Letting go of unnecessary apologies isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's the act of coming home to your worth and refusing to decorate it with guilt. It's standing in your power without the need to dim it for approval. And it's realizing that you were never too much, you were just taught to act like less. If you want to rise, start with the way you speak. Remove the apologies that were never yours to give. Speak with respect but also with certainty. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to own your voice. You are allowed to stop saying sorry for being exactly who you were born to be. Dimming your own light does not make others shine brighter. Yet too often, intelligent women are conditioned to downplay their success, to brush off their achievements, to label their wins as luck. They say things like, "I just got lucky," or "it wasn't a big deal," when in truth, they worked, they struggled, they grew, and they earned it. An intelligent woman refuses to erase her effort with false modesty. She knows that minimizing her growth doesn't make her more likable, it makes her invisible to herself. There is a difference between humility and self-denial. Humility is grounded in strength. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't need validation, but self-denial is fear dressed as modesty. It's the need to shrink so others don't feel threatened. It's the urge to stay small so others stay comfortable. But an intelligent woman does not live to manage other people's insecurities. She has spent too long working on herself to hand her voice to the opinions of those who haven't walked her path. Every time you dismiss your value, you reinforce the belief that you don't deserve it. Your brain listens, your spirit listens, and the world listens. If you tell yourself your success is accidental, don't be surprised when people treat it like it doesn't matter. When you stop owning your power, you teach others to overlook it too. But when you speak with quiet pride, when you acknowledge your growth, your work, your progress, you become unstoppable. Because that kind of self-recognition builds a foundation no one can shake. You are not lucky to be where you are. You are worthy to be where you are. Every step you took, every risk, every late night, every time you kept going when no one was watching, it mattered. And intelligent women don't pretend otherwise. They don't hide behind coincidence. They don't pretend to stumble into greatness. They speak truth. And the truth is this: what you have, you earned. What you're becoming, you chose. And no one gets to rewrite that. There will always be voices that want you to stay small, people who feel safer when you apologize for your success. But those voices don't define you, unless you let them. You don't need to be louder, you don't need to boast. You just need to stop erasing yourself. Or stop giving your victories away to luck. Start giving yourself the credit you deserve. That's not ego, that's self-respect. When a woman stands fully in her worth, she gives others permission to do the same. She becomes the reminder that it's not only safe to rise, it's necessary, because your light was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to lead, own it, speak it, live it. Let your words reflect the truth of who you are. Not lucky, but capable. Not accidental, but intentional. Not small, but powerful. And when you speak from that place, you don't just change how others see you. You change how you see yourself. There is no wisdom in tearing other women down. No strength in envy disguised as judgment. No intelligence in saying, "I don't trust other women," or "I just don't get along with women." These words do more than create distance. They reveal wounds left unhealed. An intelligent woman recognizes this. She refuses to echo a narrative built on division. She knows that competition rooted in insecurity only limits the power that sisterhood could unlock. When a woman speaks negatively about other women, what she's often revealing is how she feels about herself. It's not about the other woman's confidence, beauty, or success. It's about what those things trigger inside. But an intelligent woman does not run from that discomfort. She confronts it, because she understands that healing can't happen while holding on to resentment, and growth cannot coexist with jealousy. Her power doesn't increase by making others smaller. It grows when she can admire another woman without questioning her own value. The world has tried to convince women for generations that there's only room for one at the top, that another woman's strength is a threat, that someone else's light makes yours dimmer. But none of it is true. These are lies designed to divide. Intelligent women don't just reject those lies. They replace them with truth. The truth that empowered women empower women. The truth that your success is not my loss. The truth that support is not weakness, it's wisdom. There is immense power in how you speak about other women. When you uplift them, even in their absence, you affirm your own strength. When you speak with respect, even when no one is watching, you elevate your own voice. And when you see another woman rising and choose to cheer instead of compete, you become a reflection of true confidence. Insecurity looks for flaws in others. Intelligence looks for potential. A woman who is whole does not feel threatened by wholeness in others. She is inspired by it, she studies it, she learns from it, and she uses it as fuel. This is not about fake praise or surface-level compliments. It's about changing the inner dialogue, shifting from comparison to celebration, from envy to empathy, from division to unity. An intelligent woman understands that real power is not in being the only one. It's in building spaces where many can thrive. She refuses to participate in gossip, in passive jealousy, or in silent rivalry. Not because she's perfect, but because she's intentional. She knows that what she says about others reflects more about her than them. So she chooses her words with care, with awareness, with purpose. If you've ever felt the urge to tear another woman down, pause. Look within. Ask what you're avoiding inside yourself, and then rise above it. Use your voice to build, not break. Celebrate others as you hope to be celebrated. Because when one woman rises, we all rise, and intelligent women make it their mission to rise together, not in competition, but in power, purpose, and unity. Excuses may feel safe, but they are prisons dressed as comfort. Few words damage growth more silently than "that's just how I am." It sounds like honesty, but it's not. It's a defense, a refusal to evolve, a way to avoid accountability for behaviors that no longer serve the person you're becoming. An intelligent woman hears that phrase and chooses something better. She doesn't excuse her flaws, she faces them. She doesn't claim fixed identity, she claims responsibility for change. To say "that's just how I am" is to shut the door on progress. It's telling yourself you're incapable of becoming more. But no one is born finished. Growth is not a betrayal of who you are, it's the highest expression of who you're meant to be. Intelligent women know that self-awareness is not enough without self-adjustment. They don't cling to patterns that limit them just because they're familiar. They know that being real isn't about staying the same. It's about being honest enough to evolve. Change takes courage. It's uncomfortable. It stretches the mind, breaks old habits, and disrupts the familiar. But it is also the birthplace of everything powerful. Confidence, clarity, peace, strength. They are all born from the willingness to let go of the version of you that no longer fits. The one built on fear, the one built on survival, the one built on stories you outgrew years ago. Intelligent women do not protect those stories. They release them. There is no growth without friction. The process of becoming more will always confront the ego. It will challenge what you've believed about yourself for years. But that's not a problem. That's a sign you're doing the work. And the woman who embraces that process, who says "I can do better" instead of "that's just how I am," is the woman who transforms. She rises above her excuses. She rewrites her patterns. She creates a life that reflects her power, not her past. There is nothing weak about changing. There is nothing fake about choosing peace over pride. It takes more strength to break your own cycle than to stay in it. The world will try to convince you to stay the same. It will applaud your comfort zone and reward your sameness. But you weren't made to repeat. You were made to grow. And your words matter in that process. Because the moment you stop defending your limitations, you begin discovering your potential. The woman who evolves does not wait for permission. She gives herself the gift of truth. She admits where she's been holding herself back. And then she moves forward. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. So stop saying you can't change. Stop saying it's just who you are. Start saying you are a work in progress. Start saying you are choosing growth. Because every time you say those words, you are proving to yourself that you are not stuck. You are becoming. And that is where your power lives. When a woman truly understands the weight of her voice, she no longer speaks to impress, she speaks to impact. She no longer wastes words trying to prove herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She speaks from clarity, not validation. She knows that everything she says has a ripple effect. It influences not just how others see her, but how others see themselves. That's why an intelligent woman chooses her words with purpose. She knows that language, when used with intention, becomes a legacy. Every time you speak, you're not just expressing thoughts, you're shaping environments. The energy behind your words either lifts the room or lowers it. It either opens hearts or closes them. It either calls people into courage or reinforces their fears. An intelligent woman doesn't leave that power to chance. She understands that silence, too, is a message. That tone, delivery, timing, all of it matters. And because she respects the influence she holds, she doesn't speak from impulse. She speaks from alignment. There is a kind of presence that doesn't need volume to be heard. It's in the way she says less, but means more. In how she listens more than she reacts. In how her words land with weight because they're not thrown carelessly. They're placed with awareness. This doesn't mean she hides or softens her truth. It means she respects it enough to deliver it with power, not to dominate, but to awaken. The woman who speaks with intention doesn't gossip. She doesn't tear others down to elevate herself. She doesn't speak from insecurity, because she understands that every word is a choice, and every choice reveals her values. She knows her voice has the power to build bridges, not burn them, to create connection, not separation. She doesn't seek to be right. She seeks to be clear, to be true, to be conscious. That's the kind of strength no one can fake. Your words are seeds, and whether you realize it or not, you're planting something with every conversation. Will you plant fear, or will you plant faith? Will you speak life into others, or drain it out of them with criticism disguised as honesty? An intelligent woman knows her impact. She's aware of how her words echo in the minds of others long after the conversation ends, and she takes that responsibility seriously. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to be aggressive to be powerful. You just need to be aligned. Speak from your truth, not your wounds. Speak with purpose, not with pressure. Speak as someone who understands that the world becomes a little better, or a little colder, depending on the words you choose. Let your voice be the kind that heals, uplifts, and empowers, because the woman who understands the ripple effect of her words becomes unstoppable, not by force, but by wisdom, not by shouting, but by speaking with the kind of presence that changes everything. There is a language that lives beneath the surface of every conversation. It's not just what is said, but why it's said. Intelligent women have learned to recognize this invisible language, especially the one rooted in fear. They understand that words like "what if I fail" or "I'm not ready" don't come from truth. They come from uncertainty disguised as logic. Fear has a voice. It sounds reasonable, cautious, even responsible. But in reality, it's often just hesitation pretending to be wisdom. Fear-based language is subtle. It sneaks in through doubt. It hides behind perfectionism. It shows up in delay, in procrastination, in overthinking, and it convinces you that safety is better than progress, that waiting is better than risking, that silence is better than standing tall. But an intelligent woman doesn't allow fear to become her default. She hears it, but she doesn't follow it. She acknowledges the voice, then chooses courage anyway. Courage is not loud. It's not reckless. It doesn't eliminate fear. It rises in spite of it. When a woman replaces fear-based language with strength-based intention, her entire world shifts. Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," she says, "I'm growing." Instead of saying, "What if I mess this up?" she says, "What will I gain from trying?" This is not delusion, it's reconditioning. It's breaking the pattern of making fear the final decision maker. The mind listens to whatever you repeat. Feed it fear, and it will create limits. Feed it strength, and it will search for solutions. Every word you speak programs your perception. Every phrase becomes a lens through which you see your ability. And if you constantly speak as though you are powerless, you will live like you are. Intelligent women break this cycle. They become aware of the energy behind their words. They stop repeating phrases that sabotage their growth and begin speaking like women who expect themselves to rise. There is a powerful shift that happens when you become aware of how fear speaks through you. You begin to challenge it. You start asking better questions. You stop saying, "I could never do that," and start asking, "What would it take for me to grow into that version of myself?" You replace panic with presence, doubt with direction. You speak not from where you are, but from where you are becoming. Fear will always have something to say. But it doesn't deserve your voice. It doesn't deserve to write your script. You get to choose which words leave your lips. And every time you choose strength over safety, alignment over avoidance, intention over instinct, you reclaim your power. Let your words reflect the woman you are building, not the one you've been conditioned to fear. Let your voice be the proof that growth is possible. Speak with the clarity of someone who is no longer waiting to feel ready, but committed to becoming ready through action. This is how transformation begins, with a decision and a sentence strong enough to carry you forward. A woman's boundaries are not up for negotiation. They are not suggestions. They are declarations of self-respect. An intelligent woman never uses language that weakens her limits. She doesn't say things like, "I guess it's okay," when it's not. She doesn't say, "Maybe I can make it work," when everything inside her says no. She doesn't over-explain, over-apologize, or justify her need for peace, because she knows that boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are lines that keep her aligned with her truth. When a woman speaks with uncertainty about her limits, the world listens, and if her words are unclear, people will test her, not always with bad intentions, but with curiosity, because people respond to what you allow. If your voice trembles when you say no, your no loses its power. If you soften your truth to avoid discomfort, you invite disrespect into spaces meant for clarity. An intelligent woman understands this. She does not fear being misunderstood. She fears betraying herself. Clarity is a form of kindness, not just to others, but to yourself. When your words match your truth, you feel safe within yourself. There is no inner conflict, no guilt, no regret. And that's what a boundary is. It's a promise you make to yourself that you will no longer abandon your needs just to be accepted. It's not about being difficult, it's about being whole. You do not owe anyone comfort at the expense of your peace. You do not have to explain why you need space. You do not need permission to protect your energy. And you certainly do not have to soften your no into a maybe. Intelligent women communicate their boundaries with calm, firm language. They do not raise their voices. They raise their standards. This isn't always easy, especially when you've been taught that being agreeable is a virtue, that pleasing others is a sign of being kind. But kindness without boundaries turns into exhaustion. Giving without limits becomes self-abandonment. And no woman can rise while consistently silencing her own needs. You can be kind and still say no. You can be loving and still walk away. You can be compassionate and still choose yourself. Your voice is your protection. Let it be clear. Let it be steady. Let it be a reflection of the woman who knows what she needs and is no longer afraid to honor it. Do not dilute your truth for temporary acceptance. Do not edit your limits to avoid judgment. Every time you speak your boundary with strength, you tell the world how to respect you. And more importantly, you remind yourself that your needs are valid. Speak like someone who has learned that self-respect is not selfish, it is survival. Speak like someone who is no longer available for disrespect, chaos, or guilt disguised as loyalty. And speak like someone who knows this. When your words protect your peace, your life begins to reflect your worth. Every single time. Comparison is a silent poison. It creeps into the mind when you're most vulnerable, when you're tired, uncertain, or in the middle of growth. And before you realize it, your focus has shifted from progress to measuring tape, from building your life to scanning someone else's. Intelligent women recognize the danger of this mental trap. They avoid speaking phrases like, "She's so much better than me," or "I'll never be like her," because they know those words aren't just observations. They're confessions of misplaced attention. They're declarations that someone else's path has become more important than their own. The moment you compare, you disconnect. You abandon your own lane to stare into someone else's. But you can't build confidence while doubting your value. You can't feel peace while quietly wishing you were someone else. And you cannot rise while shrinking yourself next to someone else's reflection. Intelligent women protect their focus. They understand that admiration is powerful, but obsession is destructive. They don't compete with other women. They compete with their past selves. No one starts from the same place. No one faces the same battles. You have no idea what someone else had to overcome to get where they are. And your journey is not meant to be a copy of theirs. The woman you envy might be fighting battles in silence. The life you admire might be curated through filters and masks. You only see a fraction of their reality, but you live with all of yours. And if you keep comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel, you will always feel behind. An intelligent woman replaces comparison with celebration. She doesn't feel smaller in the presence of greatness. She feels inspired. She studies success, not to imitate it, but to learn from it. And she reminds herself, over and over, that someone else's beauty does not mean hers is missing. That another woman's confidence does not mean she has to dim her own. There is enough space for every woman to shine, enough opportunity for every voice to rise, enough purpose for every soul to be fulfilled. When comparison begins, confidence ends. But when gratitude takes over, everything shifts. You begin to see your own progress. You begin to honor your timeline. You stop rushing. You stop questioning. You breathe deeper. You speak kinder. You live louder, because you're no longer fighting to be someone else. You're focused on becoming the most powerful version of yourself. Your life is not meant to mirror anyone else's. It's meant to reflect your truth, so protect your words. When you feel the urge to compare, pause. Reclaim your power. Refocus your energy. And speak life into your own path. Say, "I'm proud of how far I've come." Say, "I'm building something that belongs to me." Say, "I am exactly where I need to be," because you are. And when you fully own that truth, no comparison can steal your joy. Not ever again. There is a quiet strength in restraint. In the moments when your emotions are loud, but your words remain wise. Intelligent women do not speak just to be heard. They speak to bring value. And that's why one thing you'll never hear them say is, "I don't care," because they understand the power of language. They know that even in pain, detachment is not strength. It's a defense. Saying you don't care is not courage. It's protection. It's an attempt to sound unbothered when you're actually deeply affected. But real strength is not in pretending. It's in staying present with your feelings and still choosing grace. It's in acknowledging your disappointment without losing your character. Intelligent women have learned that apathy doesn't make you powerful. It makes you numb. It disconnects you from your heart, from your empathy, from your emotional intelligence. And the truth is, numbness never heals anything. It only buries what needs to be processed. When you say, "I don't care," you distance yourself from your own humanity. You silence your inner wisdom. You reject your own emotional signals that are trying to guide you toward growth. Pain is not weakness. It's a teacher. Frustration, heartbreak, betrayal. These emotions are invitations to go deeper, not walls to avoid. Intelligent women honor that. They let themselves feel, without being ruled by feelings. They speak with awareness, not impulsiveness. They choose responses over reactions. Every time you tell yourself you don't care, you risk shutting down parts of you that were made to love, to dream, to connect. You risk becoming hardened in a world that desperately needs softness. You risk losing the very thing that makes you powerful, your ability to feel deeply and still lead with wisdom. Intelligent women embrace that balance. They know that power doesn't come from emotional distance. It comes from emotional clarity. You can care deeply and still have boundaries. You can feel everything and still stay composed. You can be vulnerable and still be unstoppable. There is nothing weak about caring. There is nothing foolish about being emotionally invested in your life, your goals, your people. What's foolish is letting bitterness convince you to detach from the parts of you that are meant to shine. Your emotions are not the problem. The silence around them is. And the lie you tell yourself when you say you don't care. It robs you of healing. It steals your ability to grow through the pain. But when you stop speaking from defense and start speaking from truth, everything changes. You take your power back. You stop living in reaction. You start living in purpose. So don't numb your voice to survive discomfort. Don't silence your care to avoid looking vulnerable. Speak like a woman who's not afraid to feel. Speak like a woman who can care and still rise. Speak like a woman who knows that strength isn't in saying "I don't care." It's in knowing exactly what she does care about and protecting it fiercely. There's a moment in every woman's journey when she must decide what energy she allows into her life, what thoughts she feeds, what beliefs she repeats. And the most damaging words she can ever say in that journey are, "That's just how I am." It sounds harmless, but it's not. It's a mental cage. It's an excuse that locks potential behind the bars of fixed identity. Because when you say, "That's just how I am," you're not stating truth, you're declaring limitation. You're choosing comfort over growth, stagnation over evolution. And intelligent women know they were never created to stay the same. Change is not betrayal of self. It's the fullest expression of it. It means you're becoming who you were always meant to be. Intelligent women don't cling to past versions of themselves. They release what no longer serves. They break patterns, not because they were wrong for who they were, but because they're right for who they're becoming. Growth doesn't mean you hated your past. It means you love your future enough to do the work, and doing that work requires humility, honesty, and a willingness to challenge the stories you've told yourself for years. Saying, "That's just how I am," may feel like ownership, but it's often fear in disguise. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of stepping into the unknown. But you cannot grow in safety. You grow in courage. You grow when you say, "This isn't who I want to stay." You grow when you stop defending your limitations and start redefining your identity. Intelligent women are not afraid to change their minds, elevate their standards, shift their behaviors, because they know transformation is the path to freedom. Every habit can be unlearned. Every mindset can be rewired. Every flaw can be softened through intention. You are not stuck. You are not fixed. You are not bound by who you were yesterday. And you never will be unless you choose to be. Intelligent women reject the idea that growth is betrayal. They refuse to stay small just to protect the ego. They choose evolution, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Because comfort is never the goal, authenticity is. The strongest women are not those who cling the hardest to who they've always been. They're the ones who have the courage to burn old identities and step into new power. They know that the words you speak about yourself shape your reality. So instead of saying, "That's just how I am," they say, "I'm always learning. I'm always growing. I'm becoming more of who I'm meant to be." And that mindset changes everything. It opens doors. It fuels progress. It attracts alignment. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow past what you once accepted. You are allowed to rewrite your story. And you owe it to yourself to never again use your voice to keep yourself small. Speak as a woman who is no longer defending her limits. Speak as a woman who is rising. If you want to grow, you must stop saying things that shrink your spirit. Few phrases are as quietly destructive as, "I don't deserve better." It may never be spoken loudly, but it echoes in decisions, relationships, habits, and silence. It shows up every time you tolerate disrespect, every time you stay quiet when you should speak, every time you choose what feels familiar over what feels right. That sentence, whispered in doubt or screamed in shame, is the invisible chain holding too many women back from their highest self. But intelligent women know, you don't receive what you want, you receive what you believe you deserve. And if you don't rewrite that belief, life won't rewrite it for you. Deserving better is not arrogance, it's not entitlement, it's self-awareness. It's knowing your worth is not determined by your mistakes, your past, or anyone else's ability to see it. It's recognizing that you don't have to earn love by shrinking. You don't have to prove your value by settling. You don't have to beg to be chosen. You are already enough. Not because someone says so, but because you are alive, conscious, and capable of growth. And that alone is sacred. The moment you stop saying you don't deserve better is the moment you start creating a life that reflects your power. Because deserving better isn't just about relationships. It's about how you treat yourself, the standards you hold, the boundaries you enforce, the goals you pursue. It's in the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Intelligent women understand that self-worth is the foundation of every decision. If that foundation is cracked by self-doubt, everything built upon it will eventually collapse. You were not born to exist in cycles of almost, maybe, and not quite. You were born to thrive, to walk in rooms without shrinking, to demand space not through volume, but through presence. And presence begins with belief that you matter, that you are allowed to say no, that you are allowed to walk away, that you are allowed to outgrow what once felt safe. Because playing small doesn't serve the world, it only keeps you hidden from it. If the words you say about yourself don't empower you, they are not the truth. They are the residue of past wounds, inherited insecurities, or voices that were never yours to carry. Intelligent women do not repeat words that wound them. They speak healing, they speak power, they speak worth, even before they fully feel it. Because words shape beliefs, and beliefs shape destiny. So if you've ever caught yourself whispering that you don't deserve better, stop, pause, breathe, and choose different words. Choose to speak life into your future. Choose to stand in the mirror and remind yourself that worth is not something you find, it's something you remember. And once you remember it, everything begins to change. Because when a woman finally believes she deserves more, nothing in the world can convince her to settle for less. There's a subtle trap that intelligent women refuse to fall into, the habit of justifying their worth. You are not required to explain your dreams, your strength, or your standards to anyone. You don't need to shrink your light just because it makes others uncomfortable. When you start defending your value, you step into a cycle of proving, performing, and pleasing. And every time you do, you hand over pieces of your power to people who were never meant to hold it. You don't need to apologize for wanting more. You don't owe anyone a reason for growing, healing, or changing the direction of your life. The moment you stop justifying yourself is the moment you start honoring yourself. Because justification is rooted in fear, the fear of being misunderstood, judged, or abandoned. But intelligent women know that being misunderstood is often a sign that you're evolving beyond the expectations others had for you. You weren't born to fit into their mold, you were born to break it. And breaking that mold means you will outgrow conversations, spaces, and even relationships that once felt familiar. That's not selfish, that's self-respect. Every time you explain away your ambition or water down your truth, you chip away at your confidence. And confidence isn't loud, it's quiet knowing. It's walking into a room and not needing anyone to agree with your vision, because you already see it clearly. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about standing rooted in your values, even when they're challenged. Intelligent women understand that confidence isn't what you show the world, it's what you whisper to yourself in moments of doubt. You don't need permission to evolve, you don't need approval to raise your standards, and you don't need validation to walk away from anything that no longer serves your growth. The more you justify, the more you delay your own transformation. Let them think what they want. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them assume you've changed, because you have, and that change is your power, not your weakness. Silence can be strength, detachment can be wisdom, and choosing not to explain yourself can be the loudest declaration of your self-worth. Intelligent women move with quiet certainty. They know that their value isn't proven through explanations. It's reflected in how they live, how they choose, and what they refuse to tolerate. And when you stop explaining your worth, you give yourself the freedom to become it. The need to justify is often a leftover wound from a time when you didn't feel seen, but you see yourself now. You've come too far to keep looking over your shoulder for approval. Keep your eyes forward. Your life doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. It only needs to feel right to you, and when it does, the right people, opportunities, and peace will meet you at that level. You never needed to be understood by everyone. You only needed to be true to yourself. If you want to protect your peace, never let your words betray your growth. Intelligent women understand that saying "I'm fine" when their soul is screaming otherwise is not strength, it's suppression. They know the difference between emotional control and emotional denial. There is power in being honest with yourself, power in choosing truth over comfort, and sometimes that truth is simply admitting that something hurts, that something isn't enough, that you deserve more. Silence isn't always golden when it's choking the truth inside you. Speaking from your truth, instead of hiding behind politeness or fear, is what separates strength from survival. You don't rise by pretending everything is okay. You rise by owning your feelings without letting them own you. Intelligent women never say things that disconnect them from themselves just to make others feel more comfortable. They don't fake peace just to avoid conflict. Because real peace is not the absence of tension, it's the presence of alignment. If your words don't match your values, you're not in alignment. And alignment is where self-respect lives. Every time you speak in a way that ignores your boundaries, you send yourself the message that your needs are secondary. That is a message the intelligent woman refuses to internalize. She doesn't say it's okay when it's not. She doesn't say it doesn't matter when it does, because she knows that every careless phrase slowly rewrites her inner narrative, and she guards that story like her life depends on it, because it does. You become what you repeatedly tolerate, and your words are the front lines of that tolerance. What you allow yourself to say is what you begin to believe. And what you believe determines how you act, how you show up, and what you settle for. Intelligent women are mindful not just of what they say to others, but of what they say to themselves. They understand that their language is their power. That language sets the tone for their identity. That identity sets the tone for their future. You don't have to say yes when everything inside you is screaming no. You don't have to smile when your spirit is breaking. You don't have to offer softness where there has been nothing but cold. Because strength is not always warm. Sometimes strength is silence, sometimes it's truth, and sometimes it's simply walking away from what you once begged for, because you finally understand your worth. What you say is a reflection of what you accept. And when you raise your language, you raise your standards. When you stop saying what keeps you small, you start growing into what makes you powerful. Speak only what honors your soul. Speak only what calls you higher. Anything else is a betrayal of the woman you're becoming. And you've come too far for that now. If you want to protect your peace, you must first stop apologizing for outgrowing people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Growth is not rude. Healing is not selfish. Choosing yourself after years of self-abandonment is not arrogance. It's awakening. You're not difficult for wanting clarity. You're not too much for needing respect. You're not broken because you refuse to shrink into the spaces you've outgrown. That discomfort you feel when you try to fit into places that no longer honor you is your soul pulling you forward. Listen to it. There is nothing wrong with changing. There is nothing wrong with becoming. The version of you that tolerated chaos was doing her best to survive. But the version of you that desires peace is ready to thrive. Intelligent women don't stay where their presence is ignored and their energy is drained. They walk away, not because they are angry, but because they are finally clear. Clear about what they want. Clear about what they deserve. Clear about what they will no longer allow. It takes strength to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Not everyone has earned access to your truth, and that's okay. Your job is not to make others comfortable with your boundaries. Your job is to honor them, to stand in your truth without guilt, to stop handing out explanations to people who only listen to twist your words. You don't owe that to anyone. What you owe is loyalty to your peace, commitment to your healing, respect for your own voice. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you betray yourself. Every time you stay silent when your truth is screaming, you abandon your own soul. And every time you allow someone to cross a boundary you never agreed to, you send a message to yourself that your needs don't matter. That is no longer your story. You are not here to be agreeable. You are not here to dim yourself to make others comfortable. You are here to rise, to evolve, to claim every inch of your worth unapologetically. Let them call it selfish. Let them call it cold. Let them label your growth however they need to in order to make themselves feel better. That has nothing to do with you. You're not responsible for the comfort of those who benefited from your silence. You're not responsible for the peace of those who thrived in your confusion. You're responsible for protecting your energy, guarding your mind, and honoring your truth, even when it's inconvenient for others. Because the woman you are becoming doesn't beg, doesn't shrink, and doesn't explain. She simply moves in alignment, speaks in truth, and chooses herself, again and again. And that choice is the most powerful revolution of all. When you stop seeking validation from those who never saw your value to begin with, you begin to see yourself clearly. The noise fades, the pressure dissolves, the need to prove, explain, or justify disappears. Because when you finally recognize that your worth is not tied to how others treat you, you stop accepting crumbs from tables where you were never meant to sit. You stop shrinking into silence. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop trading your peace for proximity. You become the architect of your own space, one built on self-respect, not approval. Healing isn't loud. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like saying no without explanation. Sometimes it looks like walking away without a fight. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace over performance. You don't need to announce your growth for it to be real. You don't need permission to set yourself free. The ones who are meant to meet you in this new space will already understand the unspoken language of elevation. They'll recognize your silence as strength. They'll feel your boundaries as protection, not rejection. And they won't ask you to bleed for their comfort. You no longer have to betray your soul to keep the peace. Real peace requires truth. Real peace demands alignment. You are not created to be small. You were not designed to live in fear of your own power. Every time you say yes to what doesn't serve you, you say no to the life that's calling you. And you've said no for too long. No to your potential. No to your healing. No to your inner knowing. But not anymore. You are not difficult. You are not too intense. You are not asking for too much. You are simply beginning to understand that your spirit cannot thrive in spaces that deny your light. You were never meant to make yourself digestible for people who can't handle the full expression of who you are. If your truth threatens their comfort, let it. If your boundaries shake their control, let them tremble. You are not here to manage their reactions. You are here to own your evolution without apology. There is no power in people-pleasing. There is no growth in pretending. There is no freedom in staying quiet to avoid confrontation. The version of you that is emerging is not interested in shallow approval. She is not moved by flattery. She is not impressed by empty words. She is becoming deeply grounded in her own worth, independent of how others perceive her, and in that grounding, she becomes unshakable. You are not rebuilding yourself for their applause. You are rising because your soul demanded it. You are choosing depth over convenience. You are claiming your voice, your space, your right to exist fully and freely, and you will not apologize for it. Not now, not ever. The moment you stop needing to be understood is the moment you start to become free. Because not everyone will understand the depth of your transformation. Not everyone will see the battles you've fought silently, the layers you've peeled back alone, the weight you've carried without complaint. But that doesn't make your journey any less real. Your growth doesn't require their confirmation. Your healing doesn't wait for their approval. The power within you awakens when you decide that being misunderstood is a small price to pay for living in alignment with your truth. You are not here to play a role in someone else's story. You are here to write your own, even if it means walking away from every script that once made you feel safe. Even if it means standing alone for a while. Growth is not glamorous. It's not always beautiful. It's often quiet, lonely, and raw. But it is honest. And honesty with yourself is the most powerful force you will ever stand in. It clears out the noise. It burns away the illusions. It strips down everything that is not real, so you can finally build from a place of truth. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that something is wrong. It is proof that you are outgrowing everything that no longer matches who you are becoming. And that kind of discomfort is sacred. Let it stretch you. Let it break the false identities. Let it dismantle the old narratives. You are not here to fit in. You are here to evolve. And evolution is not polite. It doesn't ask for permission. It demands that you rise, whether anyone claps or not. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to be fearless. Fear doesn't disappear just because you decide to move. Fear is the passenger, not the driver. Courage is doing it anyway. Confidence is built in motion, not in waiting. Every step you take into the unknown is a declaration that you trust your future more than your past. And that trust will build a life that reflects your inner power, not your outer limitations. You have been conditioned to shrink, to play small, to second-guess your voice, your vision, your worth. But that conditioning is not your identity. It is a cage you are learning to walk out of. The door has always been open. The only thing left to do is step through. And when you do not look back. Do not reach for what broke you. Do not water down your light to comfort the ones still hiding in the dark. Let them find their own way. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to embody the truth so fully that it speaks louder than anything you could ever explain. This is your rise. Not because everything is perfect,